How's it going, everybody? I got a part two of us discovering who the Ashkenazi people are and the so called Rothschild dynasty and what they had to do with those people getting into ancient Palestine and becoming the false state of Israel that we know today. Those people that call themselves Jews, the Ashkenazi, they are Jewish ish, meaning not the real deal. We already know from the last videos that those people are not Israelites. They are Europeans from Ukraine and the land of Russia. The Europeans, they had DNA tests showing that they have no biblical connection to the ancient Israelites or that area. And we know that the ancient Israelites were from the land of Africa, and going by scripture, it tells you they are melanated people. They were dark complected, brown to black, the copper colored tribes of America, or like the lost 10 tribes of Israel. But here you go, and here's another video for y'all, leaving off of the last video, the one with the interview with Lord Rothschild, but it is a extended one. I think it might be the entire interview, and you get more context to them explaining what they did and why they did it, and the Balfour Declaration and how it helped the Jewish people, take over the land of Palestine and make it the wasteland of destruction it is today. Y'all please enjoy these videos and stick with it to the end, and I'll see you then. Enjoy.
It was better to be assimilated into English life, and although they retained their interest in Judaism and Jewish life, they didn't think it was a good thing that this national home should be established in Israel. So it was something that divided my family, as with many other families.
I wonder, as somebody who moves in the highest echelons of British society and is very close to Israel, whether you in your life feel a tension between concern for Israel and loyalty to Britain?
No, I don't personally feel that. I mean, I've been completely committed to Israel since the early 1960s and have been there every year since. So I don't feel that conflict, but I, of course, feel huge loyalty to Great Britain.
Just tell us a little bit more about Walter, the second Lord Rothschild, because he was an unusual and colourful character.
He was a deeply eccentric man, but from a very early age, his passion was collecting. He rode about Tring Park on a giant tortoise. He had a zebra carriage.
A carriage pulled by zebras.
Yes. He collected on a massive scale birds, insects, fleas,
It was
butterflies.
the largest single collection created by a single individual.
I think that's true. I think certainly in Great Britain, I think probably anywhere, he was the greatest collector of ornithological material.
His niece Miriam writes that for 2 years, as one of his eccentricities, he didn't open any of the letters that were sent to him and stuffed them away into wicker baskets. And it does make you wonder what would have happened if the Balfour Declaration, the letter, had been one of those letters that he'd actually,
Yes,
stuffed.
that's true. At that stage, and it's very difficult to quite understand why, he had taken a deep interest in what was happening about the possible Balfour Declaration. So maybe those letters would have got to the top of his file.
I just want to revisit for a moment your cousin Dorothy, who you
Yes.
mentioned, who at an extraordinarily young age, still in her teens, played such a critical role as a go-between and a facilitator for Chaim Weizmann. Can you say a little bit about
Well,
that?
she married my cousin Jimmy when she was 17.
So this is your cousin Dorothy, Dolly.
Yep, Mrs. James de Rothschild.
And from her teenage years onwards, she was a major supporter of Israel, wasn't she?
Major supporter. I mean, she worshipped her husband, who'd been deeply committed, son of Baron Edmore. It was due to him, I think, that she became interested. But once she became interested, she became passionately interested. after his death, she became even more committed. She just wanted to carry out his wishes and what he cared deeply about. And then she had her own personality, a deeply good human being who was quite unselfish. She devoted herself to this place, to Israel, and to a few friends, and had a wonderful life. And you can read letters from her to Weizmann and from Weizmann to her when she was only 17. And what she did, which was crucially important, was to connect up Weizmann with the British establishment.
I think she also trained him in how to deal. She helped educate how to
and it's
conduct himself.
at that age, but she did sort of tell Weizmann, how to kind of integrate, how to insert himself into British establishment life, which he learned very quickly.
So I'm here in the Waddesdon Manor archives, where there is a treasure trove of remarkable documents from the time of the Balfour Declaration. We have the correspondence here between the teenage Dorothy and her husband James, and it's really a love story. Here Dorothy is writing to James. She says, "Jimmy, I thought I would not like one day to pass without giving you a piece of news you have never heard before. I love you." But of course their correspondence wasn't just romantic correspondence. Here we have detailed letters describing her dealings with Zionist leaders, her advice and her suggestions regarding the conferences of the Zionist movement. And here we have a letter that the young Dorothy, still not 20, sent to Dr. Chaim Weizmann, where she's talking about the meetings that she's arranged for him. And as we've heard, she was helpful in training and preparing him to enter into the highest echelons of British society to advance the cause of the Zionist movement. And she was an important character in your life as well. She really introduced you to Israel in some way.
She was a crucially important character in my life. I became a trustee of Yad Hanadiv over 50 years ago.
Which is the Rothschild Philanthropic Foundation.
Yes, it's been our foundation. And I think I first went in 1962.
Can you share with us your sense of what things have been changing in Israel since that first visit?
Yes. As Israel, I think, became more and more successful in all sorts of ways, industrially successful, absorption successful, technologically successful, great universities, the problems with the wars that took place, being the clearest examples, of security became more paramount. And so you did see a shift in Israel from kind of the liberal Western place that it had been in the early 60s to something of a very different character. And you also have a shift, of course, between communities in Israel. I mean, Israel is a patchwork of different immigrants from different countries. And you have the religious, you have the non-religious, you have a town like Tel Aviv, which is attractive to the kind of business community, to what I would call ordinary city life. And then you have Jerusalem, which remains a very religious city and full of conflict between Arab neighbors and itself.
Those internal issues within the fabric of Israeli society are one of the main focuses of Yad Hanadiv. Can you mention just one or two of the projects that feel to you most significant?
Yes, we do a great deal of work on education, a great deal of academic work. We keep going at Ramat Hanadiv, the garden where Baron Edmond was eventually buried. We're on the point of building the new National Library of Israel. Two unexpected ones, perhaps. If you take the Orthodox community, it's important that they have employment. And we're trying to develop programs which it's possible for them to undertake. Similarly, you have a problem with Arab unemployment. and we set up jointly with the government employment centres to facilitate greater employment of Arabs within Israel. And so we're an active foundation trying to help with these fissures in Israeli life and to do some good.
And we're sitting here looking forward to the 100th anniversary of this significant letter. If I can just ask you to think about the next centennial, 100 years' time, and just maybe share some of your hopes, your aspirations about where Israel will be.
What does one hope for? One, of course, hopes for a peaceful relationship with Israel's neighbours, and that's going to be the most difficult matter of all to achieve. But even now you can see, with the disarray in the Middle East and the importance of relationships that Israel is developing, not only with Jordan, but also with Egypt and indeed with Saudi Arabia, even if they're not publicised because of the Sunni-Shiite war, there's hope. And I think if you take the need of Arab nations to have intelligence help, and if on the other hand you take compassion and generosity coming from Israel to Palestinian territories and its less fortunate neighbours, there are grounds for optimism, and I am an optimist.
Lord Rothschild, thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you.
If you punch in Google Islam and then Pallavicini family, you will see who is running Islam. It's a Roman Empire, Italian, Persian family called Pallavicini. And when you break that word down, it means those who are close to Allah. Guarantee you 100%, brother, they run everything.
And those families are also the ones that are the original Illuminati, right?
Yeah.
But didn't the Rothschilds change their name from Bauer originally?
Yeah, that's true. Bauer is another corporate name. Remember, your surname is a corporate name, which is copyrighted by the Vatican. Their names are not their real names. Those are corporate names. Queen Elizabeth, she is an Orsini, but when you look at her lineage, you will see many other names. Well, those are corporations which come under the Maximum family, which is the Orsini family. They are the Maxima. They hold most of the power.
Would you claim that the Orsini family are more powerful than the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers?
The Rothschilds are Orsini. You will never see the Pope without these family members in the background. Pallavicini, Orsini, Farnese, Borgia, Borghese, Aldo Brandini.
One of the
This is shocking.
causations
Just
is
listen to what this guy
that the
says.
British royal family has been flat-lie royal since 1840.
Explain that.
Flat-lie royal means illegitimate, not allowed on the throne. So, from the Battle of Waterloo, the British royal family lost all their money and they've been funded by the Rothschilds in exchange for breeding rights. So the Rothschilds had the breeding rights to the British royal family from 1819 to 2019.
So what was the purpose of the Rothschilds needing this?
The British royal family were virtually bankrupt from 1815. So the Rothschilds funded the British royal family in exchange for the Rothschilds breeding the royals. So the whole British royal family are Rothschild Batards, and Batard is the royal name for Bartard. So what I did in my legal documents is I exposed King George V of England as being sired by Tsar Alexander III of Russia, and I exposed Queen Elizabeth II as sired by artificial insemination by Winston Churchill, who was actually the illegitimate son of King Edward VII.
Hang on.
I know, it gets too much, so I'll show you a chart.
Okay, so you've got it all laid out for us to see?
Absolutely. And we've got all sorts of lawyers and all sorts of historians trying to undo my information, and we've got all the royal family and all their lawyers and all their historians trying to undo my information, and they go, no, it's true.
Of quite a high-profile bank. And what's this they have through the window? Is that their original safe? This is the back of the Rothschild Bank. Is that their original safe? I'm not sure. That's a funny one. Look at that. Maybe home to the family jewels.
Since 1885, the Rothschilds were trying to start a world war because the Zionist International Congress at Basel, Switzerland, has called for 3 world wars. At the end of the Third World War, they would control the entire world. 1 billion Christians are fighting a war to the death against 1 billion Muslims, which will leave Israel in charge of the world, which was predicted at the 6th International Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland in 1896. So after the Zionist Congress in 1896, you had World War I, World War II, and now we have World War III. At the end of World War I, the Rothschilds organized a number of groups called, one was the Royal Institute of International Affairs in London. It's called Chatham House. And that is the think tank of all of Europe today. And although its headquarters in London, the real headquarters are in Brussels, which is the headquarters of the Lambert family, which is part of the Rothschild family. And there, Brussels has been running the world.
Frankfurt, Germany. 50 years after the Bank of England opened its doors, a goldsmith named Amschel Moses Bauer opened a coin shop, a counting house, in 1743. And over the door he placed a sign depicting a Roman eagle on a red shield. The shop became known as the Red Shield Firm, or in German, Rothschild. When his son, Amschel Meyer Bauer, inherited the business, he decided to change his name to Rothschild. Amschel soon learned that loaning money to governments and kings was more profitable than loaning to private individuals. Not only were the loans bigger, but they were secured by the nation's taxes. Mayer Rothschild had 5 sons. He trained them all in the skills of money creation, then sent them out to the major capitals of Europe to open branch offices of the family banking business. His first son, Amschel Meyer, stayed in Frankfurt to mind the hometown bank. His second son, Solomon, was sent to Vienna. His third son, Nathan, was clearly the most clever. He was sent to London at age 21 in 1798, 100 years after the founding of the Bank of England. His fourth son, Karl, went to Naples, and his fifth son, Jacob, went to Paris. In 1785, Mayer Amschel moved his entire family to this larger house, a 5-story dwelling he shared with the Schiff family. This house was known as the Green Shield. The Rothschilds and the Schiffs would play a central role in the rest of European financial history and in that of the United States.
Okay, not necessarily going to go page by page. I did post a link where y'all can read it for free. It's on archive.org. It's there. Shockingly, surprisingly, it's there. I can't believe it's there because the kind of tea it spills, but it is there. But I want to tell you this part. This is talking about the first Rothschild. He's explaining how the Rothschild have all the money and they have all control. And they're explaining the first one. Well, the first Rothschild became friends with some guy, Frederick Landgrave Frederick II, whose fortune was then valued at 70 to 100 million florins, an unheard of figure in those times. Okay, so this was the richest guy around when the first Rothschild, when the inception of the Rothschild family occurred. And the first Rothschild made contact with this rich guy. And this guy says, guys, y'all, listen, you cannot make this shit up. Frederick, hearing from this one guy that they both know about the ability and the unscrupulousness of Amschel, that's the first Rothschild, became interested in procuring a cursed soul or a man of straw for all his doubtful operations. Okay, you know what this means. Okay, in case you missed it. He means I need a little sleaze bag to do my sleazy shit. Okay, I need a guy that doesn't have a soul. But I think it means more than that, because these people have had amounts of power and control that seems unhumanly, right? It seems like no human can have that much power and control. And I've been saying they're not human. And then that passage I read earlier, they were like, they're others. There's some kind of others. Okay. Well, I think this first Amschel Rothschild, he needed to be procured. This guy procured him to be a cursed soul or a man of straw. If you know anything about golem magic, then if you know about golem magic and this kind of magic that they do, and I'm careful about the words I'm using, the magic that they do, which I have taken the time to educate myself on the magic that these types of people do. They use golem magic, and I've done work with clients who have had death markers and markers that markers running along their arterial systems, little tags. They look like little plates or coins, like geometric coins running along their energy bodies that give these individuals a way to tap in and control that person. I had a client one time, she had a lot of dealings in Hollywood with a lot of the business people in Hollywood. And in fact, she got rowdy with me. This woman got rowdy with me because when I did her scan, I saw these markers all over her, these golem death markers. And she goes, oh, no, I've had those removed. And I was like, Boo Bear, sweet baby, how did I see them then? If they were removed, why do I see them? No, you're seeing the remnants of them. Sweet baby Jane, I'm telling you, you've got these weird ass seals all over your energy body because somebody who practices this kind of magic of this ilk, of this type of person, has marked you as a golem type person, and they're sending signals and controlling you from time to time. This Amschel guy, I think, was a golem creation by this guy, and then what we've been seeing going forward has been variations of golems inhabiting bodies, and then the way that they create and maintain the bodies would be another conversation.
I hope y'all enjoyed the videos. I hope y'all made it to the end. I know it was a little bit longer, but it's some videos that help explain who those people are, and I'm just trying to get y'all edified on the truth and the proof and evidence to show you who these people are. We need to know who the real Israelites are. We need to know who the Synagogue of Satan is. We need to know who our enemy is, and we need to know when we're being deceived and when we're not being deceived. We need to know the truth. As simple as that. We need to follow the Holy Word accordingly and keep the Father of Heaven's Holy Word close to our hearts and try to do our best to keep His will that He has for our life. Let it be His will. Anyway, please subscribe, like, and share. Have a wonderful, blessed, everyday shalom.